Hello and welcome to the Climate Conversation. This is a new forum for debate at London Climate Action Week with some of the most prominent voices here. And we're in partnership with Newsweek and High Impact. And I'm pleased to say that we're here at High House with Jennifer Morgan, who until very recently was Germany's climate envoy. Jennifer, great to have you with us. Now, many people would have known you as the head of Greenpeace International for a number of years, very prominent in that role. Then you've had 3 years, as,
Little over.
a little over 3 years as
Yeah.
Germany's climate envoy. That role has just come to an end. Quite a difference.
Yeah.
How was it?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, to have the honor and the privilege of representing the world's third largest economy, working inside the European Union, and having the chance to take much of what we were trying to make happen on the outside and work to try and get it to happen in policies, in laws, and have a model of collaboration with other countries. It was fantastic.
Was it quite a reality check to see just what political restrictions there are on what you wanted to see?
It was a reality check at the beginning. You learn actually from very early that you can't just go into one ministry and say, okay, this is what we're doing. I think the reality check is as a government, this sounds so obvious, but you have to work with every other ministry. You have to make sure the chancellor, of course, is on board. The time that you have to spend to come together at the beginning of a government to say, okay, where do we want to go? What's my role as special envoy and state secretary? How do we work with the economics ministry, fantastic economics minister, the foreign minister, Annalena Baerbock, the chancellor, and making that time to come together. Now, of course, in Greenpeace, you had to do that as well with all the different national organizations at Greenpeace. But that was a bit of a reality check, the time that you have to spend in order to then be able to go out into the world.
And what about the reality of actually the energy system in Germany? I mean, it made an early push in solar with a great deal of success, but I've also filmed at the massive lignite mines in Germany. I mean, one of the dirtiest fossil fuels. I mean, you were confronting some big challenges there.
I was, and the reason why I felt as a climate campaigner going into that government is that the coalition agreement was very strong. The commitment to climate justice was there. The commitment to 80% renewables by 2030 was there. The commitment to phase out coal was there. And then the Russian invasion of Ukraine occurred. And Germany went on steroids into the clean energy economy. And I think that was an amazing thing to be part of. It demonstrated that with strong political leadership, you can move things quickly. You can move from a lower amount of renewables into a higher amount, and you can replace Russian gas with less gas from other places, but actually with renewables and efficiency, and have a stable grid and jobs that
So
come with it.
you can use the energy security argument in addition to the climate one to make that case. Now, you
Absolutely.
probably don't remember, but I do. My first COP was COP 11 in 2005, and I interviewed you. And things were going really badly. Diplomatically, the negotiations were stuck. And I remember being really struck by your determined optimism.
Mm.
Now, you've been in this space for a long time. What keeps you going?
I think what keeps me going is a sense of justice. I don't think it's right to have a certain group of actors, wealthy fossil actors, have the power to destroy the earth, to make the lives of poor people and vulnerable people much worse. And I don't want them to win. And they shouldn't win because it's wrong. It's wrong. And we have an alternative pathway, and I can see that. And I also think I have had the immense joy of working with so many people who are trying to make change in the world. And that's where I get a lot of my energy and determination. But at the end of the day, we have a responsibility, I think, to make sure that nature that does not have a voice in the process does not get destroyed by these interests, and that kids that are growing up wherever they are, or adults. In my last job, I visited Bangladesh as my first trip. Oh my goodness, what those people are facing.
Sure. And another interview we did was right after Donald Trump was elected for the first time.
Right.
and a COP was held. It was in Marrakesh, and there were some very long faces because everybody knew the risk was he would take America out of the Paris Agreement, which he did, and then he's just done for a second time. But once again, you were determined to dig deep. I remember an interview where you talked about cities, you talked about individual countries, you talked about sectors of the economy carrying on even if the world's largest economy wasn't part of the process.
I think in those moments, and there are dark moments, and I am not naive. I know what we're up against. But I think it's so important to stay the course. Number one, because it is the right thing to be building this world, this economy that we need. And number two, because I think if people feel that someone I'm giving up, then the other side, I don't want to talk about sides, but those that want to have a high fossil, high temperature world, well, then they profit from that. So I also feel that that's where we have to go. And I also happen to believe in it because I have seen in COPs, but also in national and local politics, things happen that there are surprises that come. And that comes from many people. I try and keep that big view and listen to different people and then try and see the different pathways. And the pathways shift according to the moments that you're in.
So what about the pathways now? I mean,
Yeah,
Donald Trump is back in the White House
indeed.
and with much more vigor in terms of dismantling climate action. And we've seen the effect of that on science, for example. So what's your sense about the effect of that on the international process?
I mean, of course, you want to have the world's largest historical emitter continue a pathway of decarbonization and also, avoid the impacts to the citizens in the
Yeah,
United
because
States.
they're suffering as
Yeah,
right.
and benefit, the
Yeah.
economic benefits that are there, which we could talk around about
We'll
forever,
we'll come to
you
that.
know?
Yeah.
Um, but again, I think, and this is the sense I had at the last COP in Baku, we are in such a further different situation than we were in Marrakesh. There's a $2 trillion economy waiting to happen. Those are the projections in green
Investment.
in
Yeah.
investment. So if the United States government does not want that, well, then let's see who else wants that. I think that there are things now that are unstoppable. If you're looking at the renewables pathways, you're looking at the prices of solar, you're looking at that possibility, not only possibility, 400,000 jobs in Germany on that. And so this moment, I think, is more about, in a way, building on that wave. Because what I have experienced is that many governments, the politics, it's the politics. It's not as much the economy anymore because they can see the opportunity in the clean energy economy, in the decarbonized economy. And I think really now it's about Europe, even more important, be working with other countries in ways of cooperating to make that
Well,
happen.
let's come to Europe because as the States retreats from this agenda, many are looking to Europe and China, obviously, for leadership in it. But a number of member states of the European Union, for different reasons, are also retreating. Now, the political headwinds are pretty tough, aren't they? Because we're still at the stage where the European Union is working out its own climate plan, and it's getting picked apart, it seems.
I mean, the European Union not only has a plan, it has laws. Germany also has a law to be climate neutral by 2045. And I think that where we need to dig down and pivot a bit is in how we actually engage people. And I've always said, but more so than ever, putting people at the center of this. Because although the stories are often not told of the local benefits from communities, from either having renewable energy or having warm homes or those types of things, that is happening. But the policy landscape and the national conversation doesn't necessarily reflect what are the daily needs and concerns of citizens. And I think that that has been capitalized upon by right-wing parties to polarize and to create fear. So I think it's a moment where we have to go back down locally, engage with people, listen, understand, and actually have that be the, continued driver moving forward. And we're in a moment, I think, where I mean, the impacts are happening. Europe is the most vulnerable, fastest warming
Yes,
continent.
I was amazed to see that.
Yeah,
It's warmed
me
2
too.
degrees,
Me
right?
too.
Yeah.
And the costs are just extraordinary. The central banks are out
Mm.
there. The Bundesbank, Central Bank of Germany is out there documenting the cost to GDP from these impacts. So, but I think we need to make it much more real to people now. Unfortunately, it is real. The impacts are real, the costs are real, but also the path forward is real. And we have to recognize what a machine is on to try and bring disinformation on, partially because the clean energy economy is moving. So if you want to stop that, you have to pump out even more misinformation and denialism, and that is creating a lot of confusion.
Because we are approaching, I don't know if we're quite there yet, but we're certainly in the zone where China's demand for oil will peak and start to
Yeah.
descend, for example. We're not a million miles from global demand possibly peaking and then falling because of the rise of electric cars. And as you say, I guess the reaction will become all the more vigorous the more that prospect gets closer.
I think so. I think that's what we're seeing, and that's been my experience. I mean, I think having worked in Germany, which, has moved forward, is at almost 60% renewables in the grid. I mean, that's a country with the solar radiation of Alaska, right? And seeing the
Yeah.
opposition that came in to try and stop that, because if Germany can do this, then it's a demonstration that anyone can. But I think in order for it to keep going, we have to have a people conversation and we need to tell the stories. Not me, but actually the school teacher in Brandenburg in Germany that now has additional funding for her schoolhouse or her school because there's a deal with the wind turbine manufacturer that a percentage of that profit goes to the local community.
And I guess in all of this, language is key, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, what words are actually used to talk about this, and whether phrases like "your house will become uninsurable"
sure.
is going to cut through more than we need to strive for greater ambition for mitigation in greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, do you think there historically has been a language problem which has alienated people?
I think we do need to speak more to the issues, meet people where they are at. And I think, as I said, unfortunately, the impacts are happening. So if you're looking at higher costs for bread because of drought, right, then you talk about the costs that are there, or you talk about the air pollution problems that are there. I'm of the view that you need to shift that, but you can't forget to have the climate piece in the mix. Because unfortunately, if we don't transform into that economy so that, if you think of the future, the mayor of London just said, the world where you are able to get your kids can walk to school with clean air. You have bike lanes where I just biked here, it was kind of like, oh, am I at risk for my life here in London? But it's much better,
Yeah.
but still. And you don't have affordable electricity. Those are the stories that are there, but understanding the risk that is there from climate change, I think is needed. So we have to combine them, but I agree that it needs to be about the everyday of what people are looking for in their lives.
I think that's right. I mean, I think looking ahead to COP30 on the horizon, others beyond, do you sense that these COPs, what extent can they achieve what people hope for them? I mean, clearly the fact that they happen every year does force attention.
Hmm.
Leaders fly in, business people fly in. You've got a great collective gathering there, which is productive, I think, in itself. But in terms of delivering the urgency that's required, where do you see the greatest potential for acceleration? I mean, is it in the COPs, or is it around it? Is it what we're seeing in industry and so forth?
I mean, I think one of the challenges of climate is that it needs to happen at so many different levels. And I think sometimes the COPs have this expectation that the COP is going to solve everything. And we need multilateral solutions because we know that an emission in the UK is going to have an impact on an island, or what happens in China will impact people in Florida. So you have to have that global approach. But you need the signals from there and understand what can happen there. And I think Belém, under Brazilian leadership, has to be and can be a moment where we have a collective spirit of moving forward in that direction. But you need the very long, loud legal signals in national policy Very important to have that because that gives the certainty for the investment. What company is going to invest somewhere where they don't know what's going to happen in the future or where it's highly volatile, which is also why I think Europe has a record of, continuing the pathway.
Relative stability.
Yeah,
Yeah.
relative stability. So those national policies are essential, but you only can do that then if you actually have the politics. And that's where people come in to bring those things together.
We're going to wrap up, Jennifer. It's been fantastic, as but just give us a final Jennifer Morgan upbeat. Where are we going to go? I mean, look ahead the next few years. They're definitely going to be bumpy at the very least. What do you offer people who are really worried about this and really want to see progress?
What I offer, I think, is being part of something which is about building a better life for yourself and your kids and a community that is not just yourself. I think often people can feel very alone and there's so much negative news right now. But what I think we can offer is actually a positive space to move forward where you can have better air. You can know that your kids can get to school on a bike path. You can have lower prices in electricity from renewables, and you're not alone in that. You are part not of a world where it's all about money and transactions and selfishness. It's actually about collaboration and coming together to build that kind of stability.
That's a wonderful note to end on. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Many thanks indeed. That's been
Cheers.
great. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for joining us in the climate conversation. And that's all for now.